Hello and welcome to Rando Rob. Each week on Rando Rob, I'll be showing and discussing one item from my large collection of collections. New shows appear every Monday, and throughout the week, I'll be adding older episodes of Rando Rob that were previously only available to my Patreon subscribers. You can watch episodes of Rando Rob on YouTube at youtube.com/Rob O'Hara. Just look for the Rando Rob playlist. Audio versions of the show are available on my website at podcast.robohara.com or through iTunes. Just search for Rando Rob. Thanks for watching or listening, and I hope you enjoy this vintage episode of Rando Rob. As you can see, what I have here are pictures of storage containers. Now, I have a bunch of these containers. I have a bunch on some shelves right over here. I have more out in my workshop that are slightly larger. Mine actually kind of look like this too. They're all labeled and they say things on them like RCA adapters and PC power cords and things like that. And those storage containers serve two purposes. One is that they keep me organized. You know, you can put things in them, and if I need a USB cord or if I need phone stuff, I know where to go. I know where to go get those things. But the other purpose that they serve is that they have a finite amount of space. And so, for example, PC power cords. There was a time where we did a project at work and we were moving computers, and they threw away almost 100 power cords for PCs. And so I brought a bunch of them home. I was like, these are still good. I'm not throwing these away. And do I need 100 of them? No, but I have this plastic tub that has about 20 of them, and that's all that I need. You know, I mean, I really probably need, 3 or 4, but it's good to have a few spares laying around. And so, but without that limitation of how many, a little plastic tub that says you could only put this many in here, then I would have 100, right? And so, now one of the funny things is I also buy a lot of those Rubbermaid. You could see one right over my shoulder, right there. One of those white shelves that have the little drawers. I've got one right here. I tend to use tables more than actual desks, and so those things are nice to roll under a table and kind of work like desk drawers. And I used to buy them like at Big Lots and places like that, but now I find them at garage sales for like $5. People buy them, and I guess I don't know why. They're like, I guess I don't need to store stuff no more. Well, I do. So then I buy them. But sometimes it makes me wonder if you're not putting the cart before the horse, because, sometimes I'll have like all these power cables or all these RCA cables, and I'll go, gosh, I need some tubs or something to organize this stuff, and I'll buy some of these plastic tubs or whatever. And I have over here next to me, I have almost 20. I have more out in the workshop that are all labeled, and I'm going to build some shelves to store all this stuff, but I'm really waiting for the price of wood to go down. But sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes I'll see these storage containers and I'll go, hey, I bet if I got those, I could organize my stuff. So sometimes I have the stuff and I go, I need to buy a container. And sometimes I buy the container and I go, I bet I have stuff to put in there. So it's not always clear which I'm doing. Am I putting stuff in the containers, or am I buying containers to put stuff in? I don't know. It's a weird way to think about it. But so I have two different things to show you tonight. Neither one was terribly exciting, but I thought by combining both of them, I would make a show out of it. And the first are these little containers, because like I said, I'm always buying, little containers. And I bought these a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, at a local mall that had a ThinkGeek store in it. So ThinkGeek, you may remember, ThinkGeek that was very popular, and I think they've kind of faded in popularity. But they were a real popular online place where you could buy cool little gifts and a lot of things that were, they had a lot of Japanese, little collectible kind of things. They had a lot of movie tie-in stuff, a lot of Star Wars things and superhero things, and then just a lot of little weird one-off things. And so I saw the store at the mall. We were in there one time, and they had these little zip up pouches. And so I bought a couple of these pouches. And the first one that I bought is a taco. You can see there's all the ingredients of the taco there. There's little cheese and lettuce. And then on this end, there's a little hook, like a key ring, that you could use for a key ring or to hang it or something. And then the taco unzips. And so inside this, I have all these little adapters and earbud things that I use for earbuds and headphones. So like these are all these different earbud, attachments. I've got a bunch of loose ones down in here that came from different earphones. Here's a male to male cable. There's also a male to female extension cable that I had stuck in there. But all little things that I would use for my earbuds and stuff. I could never find things, and these are the type of things you toss them in a drawer and they end up at the very bottom of the drawer and you never find them, So I thought, well, why not store them in a taco? That makes sense. Now, the funny thing about these is they had several that I liked, and I bought a different style one, and this is it. And it is this giant boom. Well, it's not giant, but a boom box. I guess you could use it for like maybe a pencil holder, something like that. I always thought it was weird because it unzips on the bottom. You can see the zipper is on the bottom, and then the little ring is on the top there. But going back to what I was talking about, as you can see, it's also empty. I don't have anything in it. So this is a case where I bought a container thinking that I could put stuff in it, and then I've never put anything in it. Maybe I could put it in a plastic tub, and I can have a tub full of bags that are containers. I don't know. Anyway, I do have lots of shelves. I have lots of tubs. I have lots of storage. And a lot of that is because, I find things all the time that I want to display, And so over the weekend, I went to a local antique mall, which is not really, it's called an antique mall, but they don't really specialize in antiques. There's a lot of toys. There's a lot of homemade crafts kind of stuff, but I really like it. What they don't have is a lot of furniture, and I'm not against shopping for furniture, but that's not usually what I'm in the mood for. I'm usually in the mood to go find toys and collectibles and things like that, And this place, that's pretty much what they specialize in. So we went there, and they had a couple of bobbleheads from the Oklahoma City Hornets. Now, this begs a story. It's also why I'm wearing an Oklahoma City Hornets hat. The first player that I will show you is Desmond Mason. Desmond Mason was number 24, as you can see on here, and he was a favorite of ours because his name is Mason, and my son's name is Mason. So every time he would score and we were at the ball game, they would say, Desmond Mason! And my kid would go crazy. So we really enjoyed him. So if you don't know the story, the Oklahoma City Hornets, oh, my lights just turned off because it's 11 o'clock. That's my timer that says it's time to go to bed. I'm recording this much later than I intended because of my goofy mess up earlier. Let's see what we can do here. Let's turn on the office lights. There we go. So anyway, the New Orleans Hornets were actually the Hornets started in Charlotte. And I should have looked this up, but the Hornets were a term that had to do with, I believe, the Civil War, maybe Revolutionary War, but basically it was like these soldiers would lie in wait, and then when people would come, they would swarm, and so they were known as Hornets, and so that's where the term for the basketball team. So it's not named after the insect; it was named after this local, historical thing, that the Hornets, and they were the Charlotte Hornets. So when they moved to New Orleans, it didn't really make much sense, right? But they became the New Orleans Hornets, and then Hurricane Katrina came in 2014 and flooded the city and flooded, I believe it's the Superdome. that's there, and they couldn't play basketball. And Oklahoma City had just built a stadium because Oklahoma City was trying to gather interest to host a NBA basketball team. So the timing worked out, and the NBA Hornets, the New Orleans Hornets, moved to Oklahoma City for 2 years and became the Oklahoma City Hornets. And so the first year that they were here, first of all, they were terrible. I think we won like 10 games or 13 games. They play like 80-something games in a season, so it was not a good season. But they drafted some good players, and one player that they drafted that year was Chris Paul. And so his first year in the NBA was here in Oklahoma City. You can see it's number 3, Chris Paul. The announcers, when we first started going to games, they started calling him C3PO. And you can't call somebody C3PO. I mean, locally they were referring to him as C3PO, and which is obviously trademarked or copyrighted. And so they changed it, and so they started calling him CP3, which is what they still call him, his nickname in the NBA today. So we drafted Chris Paul in Oklahoma City. He played here. It says right here that he was the 2005-2006 NBA Rookie of the Year. And of course, the cool thing about this is it's got Oklahoma City stuff all over the top of it. This one was sponsored by Chesapeake, which is a oil and gas company here in Oklahoma City. This other one was sponsored by MidFirst Bank, and they've got their logo on it. And these were handouts that you got when you went to a game, and they would give these away with a ticket. Now, I had season tickets, but we split them with people 4 ways, and so I never got any of the bobbleheads for some reason. And so, but they were $10 each, and so I thought, well, that'd be cool to pick them up and put them up on a shelf. So to finish up the story about the Oklahoma City Hornets, they were here in Oklahoma City for 2 years, and then New Orleans was ready to have them back. And so they Oklahoma City tried to keep them, and it didn't go over well. But they did end up going back to New Orleans. But we had proved that we could sustain an NBA team, and we had an arena for them to play in. And this was when the Seattle Supersonics, were having a fallout with their town. They wanted a new arena, and they would build them a new arena. And it was kind of a, depending on who you read, anybody you read really, it was kind of an underhanded thing. But there were several investors that had Oklahoma ties. And so once they had the majority on the board, they said, well, what we're going to do is move the Seattle Supersonics, relocate them to Oklahoma City, which is what happened. And so they were rebranded as the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Oklahoma City Thunder are still a team here in Oklahoma. We haven't gone to a game in a few years. We used to go to lots and lots of games. And of course, even if you're not into basketball, I'm sure you've probably heard the names Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden, the guy that has the big giant beard. They used to call him Weird Beard. And we just had tons and tons of great players and lots of great memories. We went to the playoffs. Oklahoma City is a type of town that will stand behind a team, 100%. And unfortunately, the market here is not big enough to sustain those players long term. So as if they become superstars, we can't afford to keep them, and that's what happened. So a lot of those players found better deals and max deals in other cities and left Oklahoma City. And the end result is this year, if you're familiar with the NBA, there are 16 teams in the East and 16 in the West, and Oklahoma City is in the West, and we finished 15th out of 16 teams, so not good. But we've traded all our good players, and hopefully we'll be getting good draft picks in the future, so we'll see how it goes. But they're still fun to go to. The problem is that we have such a turnover that, like this year, I watched a couple games and I didn't know any of the players anymore, so I'll have to dive back in and learn learn the new roster, find out who all the new people are that we've got. But so anyway, I just wanted to kind of share some of the stuff. I mean, it's all really about storage, either making things easy to find or easy to display. Of course, I've got the shelves behind me. I've got shelves here. I've got shelves over there. I've got a lot of shelves for displaying stuff, and so I will have to find a place for my two new bobblehead acquisitions to put on a shelf. So, well, this ran much later than I thought it was going to. I goofed up by streaming on accident. The mistake anybody could make. I pressed the wrong button and suddenly it was live on the internet. It happens. So anyway, I will see you guys soon. Thank you for your support. As I always say, you guys are the wheels on the bus that keep this thing going forward. So thank you guys, and I will see you all soon.